Hello. Welcome to my channel. I am Nakia. Thank you for stopping by. If you are new here, please consider subscribing after you see what I have to say. Like what I have to say, check out other things on my channel. I would love to have you. If you've already been here, thank you so much for coming back. Thank you to any new subscribers. I am so grateful. I'm getting close to 3,000 subscribers. Yay. Let's just get into this video, shall we? All right, so I am finally doing my February wrap up. I'm a little behind because February and March in my family is what we call birthday season. We have a lot of birthdays in my immediate family, like everybody except me. So it is a busy time for me. If you follow me on Instagram, you know that I took a trip and that was towards the end of February. I thought I was going to get a lot of reading done on that trip, but I did not. So it threw me off and I actually just finished my last book today, which it is Sunday, March 6, 7, something like that. I'll put it here on the screen. So technically that book belongs in my March wrap up, but I'm putting it in February because I'm starting some other books for March. So that's what we're going to do. It's my channel. Do what I want. So this wrap up, if you have not watched my previous video, you can check it out here. But for February, I did not want to do any Valentine, show some love type of thing. I wanted to do my own thing. So I was like, you know what? I want to read a second book by authors that I loved and see if the love is still there. So that's what we're here to find out. And I have the answers. I decided, because I've seen this on some other people's channels, and I was like, you know what? I like it because it gives you some suspense, wanting to know what's the top book. So I'm going to do this in order of worst to best. There are no 1 star, 2 stars, spoiler alert, and no DNFs this month. But we're going to go from my 2.5, 3-star reads all the way up to you shall see. So let's start with book number 1, which is The Babysitter by R.L. Stine. I loved his book that I read, Silent Night, for December, my winter theme. And so I was like, let me look for another book. This one was on my list, and I think, I heard some good things out there. So I was like, I want to check it out. Basically, this book is about a young lady named Jenny who takes a babysitting job for this family that she meets at the mall by chance. Their child runs off and she finds him, and then they connect, and they're like, oh, we're looking for a babysitter, and she needs money, of course. So she takes the job. And there's also supposed to be a killer on the loose who's targeting babysitters, which of course is so 80s. So while she's babysitting for this new family, she starts to get some phone calls, and they're a little weird and strange. And of course, the mystery is who's making these phone calls, and is something going to happen to Jenny? So this book I ended up giving 2.5 out of 5 stars. I bumped it up to 3. It was okay. It was not as good as Silent Night. I will say it had some spooky, creepy moments where I was like, ooh, what's going to happen? What's going on? Like she would hear sounds in the house and stuff like that. But R.L. Stine did too many of the fake out scares where it got to the point where by the second or third one, I was just like, we already know it's nothing. We know what it is. It's not scary. So yeah, unfortunately it wasn't scary because like I said, he did too many of the fake outs. And it took way too long to get to, nothing really happened to me till the end of the book. And then the ending was good. I liked who the person was who was making the calls and et cetera, et cetera. I don't want to give anything away. I did like that. It had a cute little resolution tied up in a little bow. But like I said, it was not as good as Silent Night. Silent Night had the heist action and stuff that I talked about. So you check that out in my December wrap up. But yeah, this one was, like I said, it was just okay. Nothing to write home about. Moving on. And then this next one was a surprise to me because I love this author, or maybe. I have talked about him many times on my channel, and so I could not wait to read this book, and that would be Home Before Dark by Riley Sager. I don't know if there's a glare because it's my Kindle, so I'm just going to pop it up here on the screen for you for the rest of this part. But yes, I was super excited about this book because it has so much hype. It was nominated for a Goodreads Choice Award for Best Mystery Thriller of 2020, I believe. And it has a 4-point-something average on Goodreads. So I was like, oh, cannot wait. Unfortunately, it was not all that for me. Basically, Home Before Dark, real quick, is about a young lady named Maggie. Her dad wrote this book when she was a kid about them living in this house. It was Baneberry Hall or something like that. And he wrote a book basically like Amityville Horror, where he talked about how the house was haunted. And he became famous off the book and rich. And Maggie grew up believing that the stuff was not true because she doesn't remember it. And so we fast forward to later in her life. She's now a young adult. And she finds out that the house is left to her by some means. And so she goes back to try to get the house together to sell it because she doesn't want anything to do with it. But in the meantime, she's also there to see if she can remember anything and if it was actually haunted. So that's the basis of the story. A lot of people put this out there as a haunted house book, but I kept in mind that it was nominated for thriller mystery. So I was like, I'm not going in here expecting no ghost or nothing. So I'm not going to spoil anything, but I will just say, for me, this book was not scary. I'm not going to go into too much detail because, as I said, I did a review, which you can check out, but it was not scary, and it was rather slow burn. It took until, I have notes from my journal. For me, it did not pick up until 80% of the way into the book, and then I ended up switching to the audiobook about 75% of the way because it kept switching perspectives between Maggie and her dad, and I just had a hard time keeping track of whose point of view it was. I mean, after a few sentences, I could tell who it was, but I just don't want to have to go through that. But when I switched to the audiobook, there were different narrators, so that helped a lot. And yeah, it was just, like I said, I like the creepy, spooky vibe that I got from the audiobook. And then, like I said, around the 80% mark is when we started getting into the mystery and all of that. And that's when it got good. I just wish the whole book was like the ending. The ending was more Riley Sager that I loved in Lock Every Door. And the rest of the book was, I don't know, but it was just okay for me. If it was not for the ending, this probably would have been a 2-star book, probably a DNF. I almost DNF'd it, but I just had to know if the hauntings and stuff were real or not. So I did finish it, but I ended up giving it also 2.5 stars. I rounded it up to 3, and the jury is still out with Riley Sager. Also R.L. Stine. R.L. Stine, I will say the love is still there. I enjoyed his writing in The Babysitter. It just wasn't scary for me. But yeah, Riley Sager, the writing was not the same for me in Home Before Dark. The ending, as I said, gave me what I wanted. So I'm going to have to read another one of his books before I decide if the love is still there. Right now, moving on. All right, next up, we have Binti Home by Nnedi Okorafor. I hope I'm saying the name right. I'm sorry if I'm not. This is the second book in the Binti series. There are 3 books, which I will be reading the 3rd. Spoiler alert, I did enjoy this. Also, we're going in order. So I can tell you right now, this was 4 stars for me. Not quite 5 like Binti, but it was 4. I'm just going to tell you a little bit because I don't want to spoil anything from the first book. But of course, this one picks up where the first one left off. In the first one, Binti goes to Umza University, which is supposed to be this very elite, one of the best universities in the galaxy that a lot of people want to go to, aliens and whatnot. She goes and some things happen in the first book. And so this one picks up when she decides to go back home. Her family didn't want her to go to Umza University, so there is drama, honey, in this book. And that is when the drama hit, I was like, oh my, my dysfunctional family indeed. And that part was so juicy. Before that, it was a little bit slow getting to some action happening. But then once the drama started happening with her family, and then some other things happened, and of course, just like in the first book, it's just so suspenseful and leaves you sitting on the edge of your seat. A lot happened from the middle point on to where it left off on another cliffhanger. So I cannot wait to read book number 3. And as I said, I love Nnedi Okorafor's writing. I know she has a book that just came out this year called Remote Control. A lot of people were looking forward to that book. I may have to check it out as well. So yes, 4 stars. I enjoyed it. And last but not least, this is the book I think I was looking forward to the most after Home Before Dark. And this is the one that I just literally finished a few hours ago before I started filming. I put this in my Instagram story if you follow me on Instagram. If not, hop on over there. I do add some things here and there, updates on what I'm reading and whatnot. But yes, this book, like I said, I was looking forward to because it is also a second book in a series, and that is Kilman Creek by Rachel Caine. This is the second book in the Stillhouse Lake series. This one also picked up where we left off with Stillhouse Lake, and this one was almost as good. I gave this 4 out of 5 stars. This one switched to multiple POVs, and if you've been watching my channel, it is not my favorite thing in the world. I don't know why everybody wants to do it, but Stillhouse Lake was from the main character's perspective, which I will just tell you quickly. Stillhouse Lake is about this lady named Gwen Proctor, aka Gina Royal. She was married to this man named Melvin Royal, who was a serial killer, and she knew nothing about it, but these internet trolls and whatnot think that she did know and was in on it, so they're trying to kill her and her kids. So in Stillhouse Lake, she goes to try to, she's on the run, trying to keep her kids safe, and then she ends up settling at Stillhouse Lake, where some bodies turn up, and of course people suspect her, and she's trying to figure out what's going on, and it is just a lot. So as I said, this one picks up. I'm trying not to spoil anything from the first one, but as I said, this one had multiple POVs, which I didn't need. I was fine with just Gwen Proctor's perspective. Her name is Gina Royal, but again, she changes her name to Gwen Proctor for safety, and she doesn't want to go by Gina Royal because of her husband. I didn't mind some of the other POVs, but her daughter, Lanny, she's the kind of teenager who gives an attitude because, that's her armor, her guard. And I mean, she wasn't my favorite in the first book, so I did not enjoy her perspective in this one. I understand why Rachel Caine gave us multiple POVs, because some things happen in this book where we need to hear other people's perspective besides Gwen Proctor. But I could have done with a little bit less of her daughter, Lanny, just a little bit. I didn't mind her later on, but in the beginning, I didn't need it. And then also they gave her this storyline that was a reveal for her character that also I did not need. I don't want to spoil anything, so I won't say, but yeah, I could have done without that. But in Rachel Caine style, this was just so much action. It is like watching a good action movie. It is just like so much happens from beginning to end. I just fly through her books. The love is definitely still there for her. I am so sorry to hear that she passed away in November, because it was like right after I read Stillhouse Lake, I went on Goodreads and somebody mentioned that she died, and I was like, what? So I'm so sorry to hear that she passed. They just released the 5th book of this series, which I believe may have been her last book. I'm not sure. This one actually wrapped up pretty nicely, so I don't know if I'll keep going with the series. I probably will read them later on down the line, but to me, this one wrapped up where I was like, aren't we done with the series? But no, I looked at what the 3rd book is about, and I see what she's going to do. So like I said, I may read it later, but like I said, action-packed, so much happens in this book. This one got a little bit darker too, like stuff that was hard to read. But what I love about Rachel Caine is she does not go too far with the gory graphic details. I don't need all that. You can use your imagination, especially with the subject matter, with a serial killer who's rapes women and all that kind of stuff. We don't need those details. We can use our imagination, and that turns me off from books immediately. So I appreciate that. It does get, dark, as I said, but not too dark. And the way she describes injuries and wounds, and I can feel it. It's always like, I'm reading it, I'm just like, oh my Lord. I don't know how she writes this stuff when I'm assuming she hasn't been through any of that in her life. I hope not. But yeah, anyway, like I said, the love is still there for Rachel Caine, and I will probably read more of the Stillhouse Lake series later on down the line because I got so many other books to read. But yes, so that wraps up my February reading month. As I said, Kilman Creek, I technically finished in March, but we're not going to talk about that. I'm keeping it in February. And so the love is still there for Rachel Caine and Anidi Okafor. The jury is still out for Riley Sager. I'm going to say the love is still there for R.L. Stine as well, because I am going to read some more of his books. Riley Sager, I'm going to read more to find out. But yes, so thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed. To all my new subscribers, again, thank you so much. I appreciate you. Please give this video a thumbs up. That is what matters to YouTube. Thumbs up, comments, all of that. show me some love. As I say all the time, I do respond to each and every comment. And yes, until next time, snuggle up in your hideaway with a good book, unplug as much as possible, especially from the news, and I will see you next time. Bye.